OG Bros, and today we're announcing the release of Enter the Alien, the first official publication of Philosophy Portal headed by Dr. G.W.F. This is Thinking as 21st Century Hegel. This came out of the Philosophy Portal Phenomenology of Spirit class of 2022. I had the honor and joy of being the editor with G.W.F for the book. I also had the honor of getting to submit a paper for the collection called The Absolute Choice. There was also a conference about the work that came out of this course that can be found on philosophyportal.com, and that was a joy to be a part of. I'm very, very pleased with how the book came together. The contributions from all of the different participants in the class was magnificent. Everyone brought different angles and perspectives that were very unique and that really showed how Hegel is a contemporary thinker. He's not just a past thinker, but he's someone that we need to think now and to think alongside. And I think that is indeed the case. Mr. Alexander Bard, who wrote the introduction to the work, talks about the Hegel Event that is to this very day unfolding. In his essay, there's a part where it mentions that we have to talk about Hegel's ideas in the present tense, not the past tense, because they are still alive and they are still emerging and unfolding so that we can realize the fullness of them. And each one of the essays will elaborate on different ways that Hegel is still with us today in areas that we need to think through. Some of the works you will find in the essay collection, the Anthology. One, you have Meditations on Self-Consciousness in Hegel by Chitan. This is exploring the division between practice and theory and really suggesting that they always go together, that theory informs practice and practice informs theory. You have the work of Quinn Whelan on Hegel, Buddhism and the Becoming of Spirit, which I enjoyed very much, and exploring how we can think of Eastern thought in terms of Hegel. And he has certain specific thinkers that he explores in Buddhism that I enjoyed, I did not know about, and it was really a joy to learn from him about that. We have Hegelian Tantra by Dmitri, which was a very interesting presentation, and really just shows how in relationships Hegel can be implied so that our desire is managed in a way that is constructive. We don't want desire to control our lives, but we also don't want to make desire bad. So how do we figure out how to negate desire in a manner that it is fuller? Because in Hegel, negation can give rise to higher forms of life, better control over ourselves, and fuller relationships. And Dmitri explores that in very fascinating ways. Max and Jason wrote two papers that should be read together. Max's is Hegel's Critique of Kant, and Jason's is Hegel and the Concept of Realism. I enjoyed both of these works. Very, very much so. And the way that Max goes over the history of philosophy leading up to Hegel and the ways that Jason explores the particular unique realism that we see emerge in Hegel was fascinating. Barris did a fascinating chapter 6, Barris, on mutual recognition in Hegel, which was talking in terms of child psychology, the emergence of self-consciousness in recognizing other self-consciousness, and how the birth of Geist, as Barrett puts it, seems to be in that moment of mutual recognition, which I found very interesting. Raza wrote on abstraction and the emergence of abstraction and how abstract thought seems to be what makes us uniquely human and has and is very important and unique to spirit. He makes this interesting example where he says, to understand that a rock can be sharper is not an act of abstraction, because the rock kind of gives you the notion that it can be made sharper in its just very rockness. But once you realize you can make a fire with a rock, now you've engaged in abstraction. And that difference between thinking that you can make a rock sharper and thinking that you can use a rock to make fire is huge. And that's the act of abstraction that seems critical for the development of the human subject. James Wisdom did a fascinating reflection on the black square, the painting the black square, how it emerged in modernity, what it meant in modernity, and how we can think of the famous black square painting in terms of Hegel. And I'm always very interested in art history, the work, analysis of art, considering the meaning of art, and I thought that Mr. James Wisdom just did a magnificent job of that, and I enjoyed it very much. Mr. Alex Ebert gave us the sublation of mathematics. I thought this was the most magnificent explanation delineation of the particular ontological, ontoepistemological construct schema that's an operation of Hegel. We cannot simply refer to it as being. We cannot refer to what Hegel is doing as merely becoming. But we have to, the way I word it is talk about a becoming with the be in parentheses, where we're always being a becoming and becoming a being, and it's always collapsing in on itself, which Mr. Ebert will discuss, and rebuilding into itself, and it's always working in a much more complicated way that can be captured in normal language. And I think Mr. Ebert has made an extremely convincing case for why mathematics is uniquely valuable for understanding what Hegel is up to. The next piece is the absolute choice, which is my submission, and on the notion of how the movement from self-consciousness to reason is what I like to call an absolute choice. It is a choice that cannot be reduced to mere rationality, even if rationality plays a part, which would suggest the necessity of the reality of non-rationality, and how it's a choice that we need to make every single day, to see the being of spirit as a bone. To see the being of spirit as a bone is of itself an absolute choice, and if you take that very, very seriously, then it will transform the entire way that you're toward the entire world. But you, of course, have to make this choice every single day. The next piece is the necessity of absolute knowing by Dr. Cadell-Last, where he will explore a new form of atheism in light of Hegel, a more sophisticated atheism that is taking seriously the realms of spirit and religion. And what does it mean to take seriously Hegel's religion in a world today? And how do we rise to the challenge of it? And then the great ending conclusion, the wonderful conclusion on ending with the beginning by Cadell-Last is a wonderful way to bring the anthology to a close. The anthology can be found on Amazon. All purchases will go to financing further operations of Philosophy Portal. And I would like to say again how grateful I was to have the opportunity to be part of this project and to contribute to it. And I am grateful for all the work that everyone did. I learned from everyone, and I am extremely grateful for the work and the opportunity that Cadell-Last gave me to be part of the project. I'm grateful for Mr. Bard's introduction, and I am grateful for the opportunity to engage in thinking as 21st century Hegel, which I think Dr. Cadell-Last has shown us the way on how to begin doing and how to do it again and again anew each and every day.